Now I will request Professor Chanda Das.
The Department of Mythology, Calcutta University, celebrating a one-day national seminar on From Natural History to Archaeology to Science and Technology, Paradigm Shift in the Indian Museums. The Department of Mythology was established in the year 1959, and this year the department will complete about 52 years.
I request our chief guest, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Subhadeep Das, to give his inaugural address.
I particularly thank the head of the department for taking initiative in organizing a seminar of this scale in this department after a considerable period of gap. And I hope that this seminar will provide a new entry point which will enable the department to move ahead in the right direction. This department carries within a rich legacy, and it should be a collective responsibility to ensure that this legacy is not only maintained and sustained but also strengthened. And on behalf of the university administration, I take this opportunity to assure of all possible assistance to the department, especially to Dr. Chandani, Professor Bhattacharya, of support for any new academic initiative and venture that the department may wish to undertake in the coming days. The primary focus of the seminar is to understand the paradigm shifts that have been witnessed in the museum movement in India. The inauguration of a new museum in Beirut. This had happened only the other day in 2009. And on the occasion of this inauguration of this new museum in Beirut, the organizers brought out a small leaflet. This leaflet is available in the internet. And I'll just quote a particular part of that leaflet to emphasize the point that I mentioned. The new nationalist revival against Western hegemonism, and I quote, "One of the central issues for an art exhibition in a globalized world is that of conveying specific knowledge, of presenting, and this is important, of presenting pictures that arise from local circumstances but go beyond them," unquote. If the honorable members of the House think they don't have any relevance, kindly throw the ideas out of the windows. But I take this opportunity of once again thanking the department for giving me this opportunity to be here. And I also consider it to be a privilege to announce the opening of the seminar. I indeed have very great pleasure inaugurating the seminar, and with the seminar, every success. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. While thanking Dr. Sengupta, I request him to say a few words on the theme.
Distinguished Vice Chancellor and my dear friend and colleague, Suranjan Das, Professor Chaudhary, very distinguished audience, participants and students, and of course, a couple of friends spread all over the hall. Indeed, there are two kinds of perception in our museum movement since the beginning. If the story begins with the Asiatic Society's widest possible mandate of trying to understand everything under the sun that relates to man and nature, then this particular idea is central to the growth and development of museum in India. What is of great importance is the nationalist perception of the museum in India. Ashutosh Museum is certainly a major shift in the perception of museum, a major shift in the museum paradigm. And it is about time that we come forward to appreciate this new change, and the change that had a far-reaching impact on our way of looking at museum even today. My point was that when we are forced to display when an Indian antiquity, a major Indian antiquity for that matter, is displayed in British Museum or in Museum or in any major American museum, the extent of decontextualization widens and there is a complete disjunction between the viewers and the context of the object. We are really creating new bridges, making new bridges between the de-rooted Indian population and decontextualized Indian antiquity. So these arguments was that we are really creating a new kind of context, a new kind of meaning for the activity. Will also be will go into complete oblivion. I cannot relate directly to the theme, but I am only taking cue from Professor Suranjan Das and sharing with you some of the concerns with which all of us are confronted today as what is called a much maligned word, patriotic India. Thank you very much.
I am grateful to Dr. Gupta for his deliberation. Now I would request our guest of honor, Professor Masud Choudhury, the Honorable Registrar of Calcutta University, to say a few words.
Very distinguished persons in the audience, Dr. Sharad Ghosh, Dr. Ashish Ghosh, Dr. Shyamul Gandhi Chakraborty, respected teachers of this department, respected development and planning officer of the university, students, scholars, ladies and gentlemen. Information, where people can interact, people can talk about people can talk with the authors, or people can talk with the speakers of today's session. Then what will happen is this, that someone sitting in the United States will read about today's seminar, will read about today's speaker, and then based on the assessment of his, he will be able to interact. He will be able to put his opinion, and all those can be corrected in the form of website. All those maybe something to change. And what will really happen is that then this seminar will not remain confined to this university. This seminar will become a subject, global matter, global subject, and everyone from the different part of the world, everyone will be able to access that. Anyone who is interested about that will be able to access that. So that is something, if Professor Chandra thinks about that, I think that would be useful. We have our website. If you go to the website, you will find very valuable information. We have quite a large number of e-journals. So with that, from the department, if that is good, then globally that will be accessible, and that will be good for the department, that will be good for the university, good for people at large. So that is one suggestion that I will give, and I thank the department, I thank the head of the department and other distinguished teachers of the department for hosting this seminar, for bringing so many luminaries from this subject together. Our Vice Chancellor has already spoken. He is a very great speaker. So he has given the direction, basically flagged off the seminar the way Dr. Gupta has said. So I wish the seminar all success. I am sure that all of you enjoy, particularly the students, because you do not you see only the teachers of this department. Today you have got people who are extremely talented and who have proved themselves in their subject, and you are getting them today. It is an opportunity for all of you to interact with them and to learn a lot and to take the subject forward. That is basically the idea of the seminar. So I wish the seminar all success. I wish the department all well. I wish all of you well, and I hope that you will excuse me for no knowledge of the subject, because I do not know much of the museum. The subject that I do now, I am doing administration, and I am a person of science and technology. But science and technology has come in a big way in preservation, in maintaining, in maintenance, in energy generation, as well as, for example, fuel cells and other things, energy generation, and environmentally safe energy generation. Those are some of the subjects, and I am sure that the museum will be able to make use of them in a big way to make them more oriented towards science and technology. Thank you very much for listening.
I may inform you all, the proceedings are being videographed, and it will be definitely hosted in our website through YouTube or some other technologies available. I think that is, in fact, it was not really the idea behind the videographing the whole proceeding. Now I request to wrap up the inaugural session, I request Professor Shukita Bhattacharya to formally deliver his vote of thanks.
Privileged and honored. On behalf of the department, I want to offer vote of thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Honorable Speaker Dr. Gautam Sengupta. He has come from Delhi, taking all the troubles and addressed here nicely. But before offering my vote of thanks, I want to mention some of the points and to raise some of the points which is very relevant. Professor Das, Ranjan Das, our Vice Chancellor, raised a very important question about the territorial integrity of culture. And Dr. Gautam Sengupta raised another very important question, that is the decontextualization of the presentation of the objects. And Dr. Bhaskar Chaudhary, the Honorable Registrar, raised another very important issue, which is very relevant also in the preservation society, that is to put all the proceedings in the computer. I offer my sincere thanks on behalf of the department to all the delegates, honorable delegates, Vice Chancellor Dr. Gautam Sengupta and Professor Bhaskar Chaudhary. I also want to thank the DG of NCSM, National Council of Science Museums. He has extended all the support and hospitality to our friend and given the conference facilities and other hospitalities, boarding and lodging facilities. To our Professor Nagvi has come from Archaeology Muslim University. Again, I want to thank Sri Supriyo Munshi, the Secretary of the Gandhi Museum. He has provided an eco-friendly bag to all the participants. Thank you very much.
Management of tea and small snacks in the next door. I will invite you all to join us at the
ponder over it and historically make a more critical analysis of the not only from the point of view of internationalism and nationalism, but from the viewpoint of very much Indian museum context, evolution of Indian museum from the past to the present, from the days of the Asiatic society to the days of the present time. My last line I would like to say, we have seen birth and death of museum. In this particular state, West Bengal, I'm very sorry to say that today the world knows about Bombay National History Society and Prince of Wales Museum under the Bombay National History Society. But it's so sad to see Bengal National History Society Museum in Darjeeling has been dying a very slow death. However, we have tried half-heartedly or no attempt at all to revive it. But right now, I don't think we can be proud of Bengal National History Museum, which could have been a place of pride, especially in Eastern Himalaya. It could have played a very important role because Eastern Himalaya remains very focal point of an international scenario called Eastern Himalayan Biodiversity. I think this seminar may perhaps urge upon the state government and the government of India to revive Bengal National History Society Museum, since it's not a transition, it is a concurrent flow of science, technology, archaeology and natural history. It's not a paradigm shift. To me, it is concurrent streams of the same thing. No museum without natural history can exist in many parts of the world. No museum without archaeology, or no museum with the current concept of changing concept of science and technology. Well, I don't want to dwell on this subject any further. Thank you very much to the head of the department, Professor Chanda, and to the colleagues in this particular department. I'm honored to be here to chair this session. Thanks for offering me the chair. And I've got a very distinguished colleague who has come all the way from Aligarh to give you a lecture on the subject area on which he knows much more than what I know perhaps.
First, like this concept which is given to for the topic of the seminar in this way, paradigm shifting the evolutionary history of museums in India from Asiatic society till present. If that is the focus, that is the area we discussed, then it becomes very simple. And as somebody said, I think Das Gupta Sahib in the morning, well documented. It is always written in the Asiatic Society, so many sites. If you look into the Wikipedia, a lot of documentation, but there are again disparities. I have looked into it, and I tell you, I am a naturalist, shifted to museology, but now I have revised the syllabus based on the ICOM syllabus, and I am trying to look into, my research scholars are working, look into afresh with a new mind, from Asiatic Society till present, or yeah, that means especially during the golden so-called golden age of Lord Curzon, वहाँ क्या हो रहा था, and then let's forget about past. From ancient, a mention of museum and museum kind of museological activities, it suddenly jumps to the colonial period, the medieval period. Now people are talking about a kind of museum organization, toshakhanas. They just mentioned one or two lines, but nobody has worked extensively in that. That is another area. Although it is not my area, I am a naturalistic person, but that's another area. I have tried to find out certain museological activities and the paradigm shift thereof. What kind of natural activities were going on in the medieval period, and then after all, which is well documented, after all, after colonial period and later on. Nobody has traced this spelling. They traced the various, and most of them came from Bennigan in Delhi, which was in the private collection. They are still there in film studios in Bombay. So there is another trail to trace the first emphasis on the natural history collection in India. This is a time for us as a museologist to think in terms of unifying the concept which was original, right from the Greek goddesses of knowledge. Originally, the concern for the past was unanimous, what in cognition, but now it has gone, it has divided into specialization and all. No paradigm shift. If you mean paradigm shift is now the modern trend is there will be only science museums. Paradigm shift is there. No, that is not the right approach. The right approach is a thinking, a unified view of all the people who are museologically interested. What is museological? I refer to my understanding after 35 years in this profession is that Stransky and the ICOFOM people say museology is no object-centric now. Museology is human concern for memory and reality. Let's simplify it. Memory and reality. What is reality? The tangible heritage. Memory is intangible. Now the concept is there. Museology has provided the answer. You have to think of the totality of the tangibility and intangibility, and please, for God's sake, don't divide into natural history, science. The need of the hour is to please. There can be paradigm shift of role of museum. There can be paradigm shift of what kind of presentation, but there cannot be a paradigm shift of one on this collection, one on that collection, and finally on that, because the hour of the need of the hour is to have a holistic approach. And thank you very much.
We have heard Professor Naqvi speaking rather in a manner that which, because he has got a very long paper, he has taken parts of it because of time limitation maybe. But the concept that has emerged, I believe, from him, which if I put it in a more articulate manner, in this audience, some of us believe that there is not a shift that what we are looking at from archaeology to naturalistic to science and technology. Perhaps there is a need to understand the museum as a whole, and classically, where the museum can be a very specialized museum on archaeology or natural history or science and technology, or a comprehensive museum with dedicated sections to individual subject area of which we want to know. He has talked about the historical perspective. He said many of the collections which you call the museum collections have never been chronicled properly. Perhaps this is a very important area for visually students, maybe dissertation, maybe going to a place, maybe documenting. I think this is very important. Every country in the world, what is there has got a good documentation system. We in India, we still, perhaps in many cases, we don't have the good documentation system. Please have a special mention to the Bengal Dutch History Museum, to the government, to whatever forum you can, so that we can revive that museum, which is of great importance and great heritage to the state of Bengal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. My special thanks goes to Dr. Ghosh. And as usual, my old friend Asif Saab has raised some debatable issues, but I am sure that will be addressed in the next deliberation. But one thing I must tell, due to some unavoidable reason, we had to start 15 minutes late, and already we are going behind 45 minutes. Thank you, Dr. Ghosh and Professor Naqvi. Our next academic session will start now. I will request Dr. Vishwas, D.K. Vishwas, to chair the next session, and the speaker would be Dr. Samal Kanti Chakraborty.
I would like to say that Bengal is now running with Parivartan. The term Parivartan is very, fresh in the minds of all Bengali people here. So the paradigm changes. The Parivartan is a very fitting, subject the department has chosen. So at that time he thought that this segregation is not a good solution. The thing should remain near the site so that the people can see the site and see the contextual background and also appreciate the collections in the site museum. The oldest museum in India, which is going to observe its 200 years within 2-3 years. And he was very fortunate to be its director, and he knows the pros and cons of this museum, and he can tell you how the paradigm was shifting with particular reference to Indian Museum in Calcutta. So I now request Dr. Chakraborty to begin his lecture.
I would take you only to a historical journey to some of the museums in India which began with natural history collections and changed to some extent, yielding place to archaeology. I will now read a written paper so that I go here and there talking odds and ends and everything of the subject. Historians of archaeology have noted that prehistoric stone artifacts were first identified as such during the 17th century, and a great deal has been written about the formulation of the idea of Stone Age in the 19th century. Much less attention has been devoted to the study of prehistoric artifacts during the 18th century. Yet, it was during this time that researchers first began systematically to collect, classify, and interpret the cultural and historical meaning of these objects as archaeological specimens rather than geological specimens. The archaeological sections of the Peshawar Museum, the Indian Museum, had the full-time superintendence of the survey in promoting the archaeological services. Marshall was responsible for setting up a large number of museums under the direct control of the survey, including those at Agra, New Delhi, Delhi Fort, Lahore Fort, and at the excavated sites of Taxila, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Sarnath, Nam. Once started, the museum movement thrived rapidly, and archaeological museums came to be founded in rapid successions at Bijapur, Baripada, Chamba, and Ajmer, Gwalior, and Khajuraho, Shanchi, and Lodi. We have now a chronological list of the archaeological museums in the 20th century. Beginning, of course, at Mathura in 1874, then we have District Archaeological Museum at Bhar in 1902, Archaeological Museum Red Fort we have mentioned 1909, Archaeological Museum Khajuraho 1910, Archaeological Museum Bijapur 1912, Archaeological Museum Jhalawar 1915, Museums of Archaeology Shanchi in 1919, Bharat Kala Bhavan and Archaeology and Art and Archaeology 1920, Archaeological Museum Gwalior Fort 1922, Archaeological Museum Picture Gallery Trichur 1938, Archaeological Museum at Ambed 1938, Museum of Art and Archaeology at Vallabh, Vidyanagar, Surat 1949, Museum of the Department of Archaeology, MS University of Baroda in 1950, Amravati Archaeological Museum in 1951, Archaeological Museum, University of Sagar 1951, Alampur Archaeological Site Museum 1952, Kundapur Archaeological Museum 1952, Archaeological Museum Hampi 1953, Bodhgaya Archaeological Museum 1956.
He has very nicely, traveled through the ages and told you how by and large of all the types of collections, archaeological museum became very, very prominent in the country, and so many museums were made. And another thing is this, in the making of these museums, also they went on enacting different acts. Archaeological Monuments Acts, Treasure Trove Acts, and these acts were also made simultaneously so that the activities of the archaeological side would be more, make fruitful and meaningful, and they can save their archaeological objects from the damaging agencies. And the rest history is also known to you. So I thank Dr. Shamul Chakraborty once again, and I also thank you for patiently hearing us and bearing with us. And with these few words, I conclude these sessions by thanking Dr. Supriya Chandra, the head of the Department of the Museology, and his other colleagues and professors in the department and the teachers in the department for organizing such a nice seminar, and which is very, very relevant for these days. With this, again, I thank you and say this part of the program is closed. Thank you.
The last session before the lunch, the academic session 3, would be chaired by one of my mentors, Dr. Saman Ghosh. I will request Sir to come to the podium, and the lecture will be delivered by Mr. G.S. Rautela, Dept President of the National Council of Science and Engineering. Sir, please. Our students will present the chair and the speaker with oral copy.
My problem is with the title of the seminar. Not that the problem has any title. The title has any problem. I have a problem. If we scan the history of museums in India, we find there have been many, many ships. But it's very difficult to call all the ships as paradigm ships. To me, paradigm shift is something extraordinary, revolutionary in nature. To me, opinions may differ. To me, the first paradigm shift, remarkably different kind of shift, came in 1969 in the world scenario when for the first time one museum said, come here, handle the objects, operate this one, try to discover things. In contrast with the earlier situation of please do not touch, put everything in the glass case. The moment this idea came up, then afterwards it was not restricted to science museums alone. True, the science museum started talking about hands-on science. But look here, the Smithsonian Institution set up activities on hands-on history. Many museums started hands-on art. So, hands-on concept is no monopoly of science museums. Lot of museums accepted that kind of concept, bringing the people in close physical touch with the museum exhibits, which means that there was a different concept of exhibits. So, such museums no longer remained as collection-based institutions. So they started creating their exhibits rather than collecting from there. My second point is something which has been said in the morning session, the conflict between musealization and decontextualization, difficult to pronounce. Okay, there's a conflict over there. Now, this is something, I would say, a major paradigm shift which has not come up so far. The point is that the days are coming for that kind of change, and if it comes to that kind of change, that the museums will no longer be able to collect objects from nature or collect objects even from archaeological sites, because that will decontextualize the objects, so then the whole approach would be different. So with these two observations, I would now request Mr. Rautela, G.S. Rautela, presently the Director General of National Council of Science Museums. My request is that when you hear Rautela, don't think that he is speaking only from the platform of Science and Technology Museums. He would be speaking from the much larger platform of museums in general. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Will do a paradigm shift in presentation from reading the late papers and speaking on various topics, the intellectual talks. I will go straight to a presentation.
This is not only making a museum, but I am talking about in architecture, management, conducting, collection management, interpretation, research, visitor services, marketing, everything called museum practice. So I am talking from that point of view, where all there are shifts happening in museums. That's what, I might give an example from Science Museum, but let me tell you, for me, the difference between Science Museum, Archaeology Museum, Natural History Museum is the content. Since I would also like to narrate a little history. Why I am narrating some history in the museum? The oldest public museum that came in Rome was in 1471. That was a public museum. In fact, there was a museum before that, but it was a public museum for viewing. Then the Armorial Museum in the Tower of London came in 1592. And Archaeology Museum, which had science object, why I have picked it up in 1636. And Louvre Museum in Paris, 1793. The Science Museum London came in 1857. I have put certain marks on them. If you look at London Science Museum, was a collection-based museum that time. And if you go to Deutsche Museum London, which came in 1906, And then later on Chicago Museum 1933, they were participatory. Participatory means visitor could push a button, something happens inside, but he could not manipulate. He had only a push button or a shaft to rotate. Okay, so he could see the machine models operating, how they operate. Well, if you look at the world, the development of science museums in India, 51 to 60, that decade, we had only one in the NCSM, one outside NCSM. That's how the development started. The three categories of science museum I'm going to define. In fact, Science City, I'm excluding from this. National level center, the Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta and Bangalore. And then we have regional level and state capitals. And we have sub-regional or district science centers like Purulia, Bardhaman, Siliguri, etc. But Science City is altogether another shift, paradigm shift, which was made in 1997, which, though it is a partially science center, but it has certain other components, which I will discuss a little later. Out of a study done by a task force by the Planning Commission, that what should be the future of these museums. So the task force recommended a separate body to monitor these museums, a separate organization. They should be dealing from CSIR and NCSM was formed. That's the organizational structure of NCSM. It's an autonomous structure where there is a governing society where minister is the president, there's a governing council where a scientist is the chairman, and then we have executive committees and other committees down the line. This is the nationwide network right now. The biggest network in the world of science museum under one administrative umbrella at the moment. And the revenue, of course, also the revenue is given to us. That means there is no dearth of money in this government, in country. If there is a good cause, money is not an issue at all. Well, why we have been successful, that I promise to tell you, is an autonomy. We don't have too much of government bureaucracy. There is an autonomous organization, governing body is empowered enough. So the scientists who there who understands our work very well, we sail through very easily. As a result, we have no issues, quick decision-making process. Structure of the organization, nationwide network. We don't have people, then what do? Nobody has stopped us. There are powers with directors to have ad hoc staff, temporary staff, contractual staff. If you want to do, we can do the work. So outreach, specialization. Now, if you say paradigm shift from archaeology, natural history to science, it is nothing but it's a specialization. You are asking us, if a museum or toilet can come in Delhi, do you know how many of you know this? Museum or toilets? There is one in Delhi. So if it can come, so much of minute specialization, very specific specialization is possible, that you can have those specializations. So generating a positive word of mouth is crucial for success. Museums don't succeed by advertising on television or newspaper. They succeed by good word of mouth, one visitor tells to others or 20. But bad word goes 20 times faster. Let me tell you this. Well, look at this museum. This is coming up in Singapore. 5 fingers of a hand. And each one is a gallery. Each one is a gallery. Okay. Well, activity areas. And now our history can be made interactive. I told you that bird is interacting with the display on the wall. There are photographs. So you turn the monitor and get information on the monitor. Once you direct, you will get information. Well, right, engaging moments. These are children corner. Let's designer. It's a children corner. He has made an ad shape which the child can go inside. So this is called second market. So they came. And full of them, 2-3 days, a large number of visitors they got to the museum. Well, if they don't come, you will go to them. For the center in Calicut, we were less number of visitors. What we did evening, lot of people go to the beaches in Calicut. So we took our telescope and some display boards and put them around the beaches. They know about us. Our visitor figure has grown 5 times in the last 5 years. So
I would just thank Mr. Abdullah for his presentation. I know there could be many questions from the floor. Many of you, and you are free to ask him the questions during the lunch period. No further discussion. Thank you very much.
A lot of deliberations and thought-provoking and needs certain clarification for the benefit of the students and the research fellows. I think our teachers could perform that task to make the deliberations elaborate and explanatory to for the benefit of the students.
Second session, that is marked for the panel discussion, and in the panel there are 5 names. Of them, Professor Sunil Kumar Mukherjee, who is absent, and Professor Sanda Das, Professor Satyendra Bhattacharya, Dr. Mohua Chakraborty, and Dr. Indrani Bhattacharya. So, at the moment we have 4 panelists, and they will discuss about the topic that has been done here. And in this case, in the seminar, 2 points coming up. One is whether it is really shift from natural history to archaeology to science and technology. That is one view. And then largely another view coming up that there is no shift at all, and there are many examples cited by many people. What I have one observation that after the establishment of Archaeological Survey of India in the year 1890, there are many archaeological museums, and actually in India the archaeology museums are outnumbered than the other types of museums what we find in India. But the science and technological museums like the BITM or like that, they made a commendable success for disseminating popular science among the villagers. Professor Chanda Das will speak now. I request Chanda Das to deliver her lecture.
After Second World War, some special type of museums were established that is called biographical museums. There are some biographical museum is a post-war phenomenon in India. At that time, many famous persons, poets, scientists, patriots were born. This type of museum is an attempt to remember and understand the meaningful life of a great person who had contributed towards the progress of human civilization. It helps to adopt right ideas for bettering our life. Personal collections and the collection of personal relics connected directly or indirectly with the life of a towering personality, associated with the photographs, contemporary newspapers, recorded voice, etc. This is paradigm shift from natural history to archaeology to science and technology. The partnership with the Indian Museum quite the place of biographical museum. It is not natural history museum, not archaeological museum, not science and technology. So I don't know what is the position of biographical museums. Thank you.
Dr. Bhumi, Professor Das, we are celebrating 150 years of Rabindranath birthday. This paradigm shift is very important from social point of view, from economic point of view, from political point of view. We have started our journey, if it is led, from Asiatic society. And the perception of Asiatic society, which in the inaugural address, John stated clearly, quote, in his opening address, will investigate whatever is rare in the stupendous fabric of nature. Will correct the geography of Asia by new observations. I should say, during this period, 2 departments came into being, teaching department. That is, one is Baroda, Meteorology department, another is Calcutta. each discipline, who are making professionals. Two universities set up two departments, museum studies and in Calcutta, museology department came into being in 1959 during these periods. So it is also to be recorded, not only it's a paradigm shift of the Science and Technological Museum, but institutions like university came forward to train some people at least, to educate people, to sensitize society. That is also another contribution of the universities, and that too in West Bengal. And a very big university, Calcutta University, they started museum studies for diploma course in museology in 1959. Despite the fact during this period, besides science and technology museums, various types of museums were coming to be, and there is a positive shift in funding of these museums. That is, one is biographical museums, which are stated earlier by Dr. Chandra Das, ethnological museums, to get self-identity, because some sections of the people of the society, they are suffering from identity crisis. So ethnological museum came into being, archaeological museums, eco-museum. The natural character of the museum changed, slightly changed. Eco-museum, maritime museum, National Museum of Natural History in Delhi, Children Museum. If I consider the definition of the ICO, then NRLCP, that is also museum, or para-museum. So that is also came into being after 1972. So what I am trying to speak, that is, there is a university diversity. The paradigm shift doesn't mean only science and technology museum they are taking indulgence or they are taking favor. Not that. Other type of museums also coming up during this period.
Actually, what our teachers said previously, those are all about the historical perspective and major trends in museum movement in India. I think my view is I agree with them, but I think somewhat different in some matters. I think in every museum, either it may be art, archaeology, natural history or science or technology, every museum item has various types of overlapping values. That is antiquarian value, artistic value, natural historical value, economic or market value, as well as aesthetic value. So we cannot categorize them that particular item must be kept in a particular museum. However, for our convenience of study, we categorize the museums in mostly 3 or 4 categories, that is history museum, art museum, natural history museum and science and technology museum. The collections are also emerging and gradually and visitors also gradually visiting museums. This is a different thing, but one thing we must observe, that museums, the germination of museum initiated from the museum, that is the Temple of Muses, and it was taken as the storehouse of manuscripts and scientific apparatus which were used by the scholars. So we cannot take this, but we cannot take this that museum is only for collection. These were used by the people for education also. So we can follow the particular trends, that is collection which initiated from the curiosity or out of the hunger of learning, and afterward preservation was needed so that future generation can utilize this properly. After that, for public, all the collections were opened and display was initiated. After that display, but the communication method was introduced and through communication, education started. And now, after the education, it was not bound beyond the four walls of the museum. It was taken to the outside, that is outreach program.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon. Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon, respected senior professors of the Department of Museology, respected museum professionals, our guests, colleagues and students. Since morning, we are listening many deliberations regarding the origin, evolution and the futuristic trends and changes in our Indian museums. During this period, we have already noted down different milestones in the evolution and the changes in the museums. It was started with the establishment of Asiatic society under the colonial rule, and then the first oldest and museum of the Asia was established, that is our Indian Museum in Calcutta. Then the museum was mainly depends on the natural resources of our country. After that, we felt that the main focus was on the tangible heritage of culture, and the paradigm was shifted to archaeology. It was perhaps started with excavation in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and after that, in 1947, after the independence of India, we know that our government put special pressure on the development and flourishment of our industry, and people's psyche was also changed. People want to know every subject scientifically, and a scientific thought is always their choice. As a result of that, many science museums and science and technology museums were developed all over the country under the umbrella of, firstly under the umbrella of CSIR and then under NCSM. At the same time, National Museum of Natural History was also established in Delhi, and after that, within 2010, other regional natural history museum was developed all over India. But during the 1990s and during this 2010, we know that the globalization, the information boom and communication, media development, etc. also influences the trend in our museum development. Some idea that our Indian museums also follow such type of inclusiveness in their functioning, perhaps in the near future. Thank you.
I offer my sincere thanks to all the speakers for elaborating the topics very nicely. Thank you.
Had a very fruitful 4 sessions, academic session, and perhaps this is also a new thing to me also. A post-lunch session generally don't witness such a large gathering. I am happy, I am elated also. Now we will start our valedictory session, and I will ask Dr. Shyamalkanti Chakraborty, former director Indian Museum and former director National Library, to chair the valedictory session with Professor Mamata Rai as the guest of honor, and our valedictory lecture would be delivered by the very illustrious first batch student, and of course then our teacher Professor Somnath Bhattacharya. I would request you three to please to come over to the dais, sir. Ma'am, please, ma'am. A student of our first batch is present along with the contemporary batch of students here. I think it's in a very emotional situation.
The dais, coordinating the activities of the valedictory session. In fact, we have our Pro Vice Chancellor and also not only the first batch student, a teacher in the museology department, a prominent teacher of the museology department.
I have been requested by my student Supriyo Chandra, presently head of the department with which I was associated as a student and a teacher for more than 4 decades since 1959. I hope you have gained more than you expected from the deliberations of the seminar on a very updated but debatable topic. The speaker must have enriched the audience. The audience rightly interacted with them. It is my ignorance for which I fail to fit art, ethnology, crafts and other cultural types of museums to natural history or archaeology or science and technology, and the mentioned paradigmatic shift in museums in India. I'm sorry for that. It is a fact that the structure and administrative setup of natural history, archaeology and science and technology museums is pyramidal and varied in types, enormously funded by the central and state governments. On the other hand, museums belonging to cultural expression of man have also been set up dispersely all over India by collective and individual efforts. Dr. S. Asif Nakvi, who is almost a friend of mine, I request him for the performance of to be involved through his website for the better performance of the department by means of his own website facilities, so no farewell to him. Naturally, there is no question of farewell. We can only say we'll meet again, we'll see again, we'll gather again for at least to some other events which will be held here.
I would now request our guest of honor, Professor Mamata Rai, Vice Chancellor D and F, of course, to deliver her views.
Respected Chairman of this
session, valedictory session, Dr. Shyamol Chakraborty, respected Professor Somnath Bhattacharya, respected Head of the Department, Professor Chandra, the other dignitaries and members of the faculty, and beloved students and research students. First, I extend my thanks to the department for asking me to be present today in this session. And I first admit also that I am a layman, but I felt interested coming here because the museums all across the world, in our country, everywhere, they deal with the layman. So their main concern, I think, one of the, obviously, apart from the academics and the theoretical job, how to connect with the visitors. The visitors, of course, you have the entire day, you have deliberated on this particular paradigm shift. In every subject, we are having this kind of paradigm shift in the post-ICT revolution decade, years. So this is not new, this is nothing novel in museology alone. We are, in every discipline we are facing a very, very important paradigm shift. What is important, I just was thinking, so far as these museums are concerned, I feel that you know better. One of the most important tasks is how to actually get to terms with a plurality of pasts. This is very, very important. What to focus and how to guess how the mindset of the average visitor is changing. I feel that in the coming days, this study of museology should also focus on all other related policies concerning culture, preservation of culture, heritage, and also the education policy of our nation. For example, in the National Curriculum Framework 2005, there is a clear advocacy that all young students of our country, like in other countries, should be familiar with their basic culture, should be familiar with the local traditional crafts and art, and this way, this is very important to widen their span of imagination on the one hand, and also span of analytical mindset, analytical insight. So given this, I believe that the government, if we are talking about shortage of funds, everywhere there is shortage of funds, particularly in crucial junctures of cultural shifts. And in the coming days, this challenge of technology, everywhere it is being felt, that should be productively utilized to promote what kinds of the span you are meeting, how you are treating your past, and to what extent the basic subject remains modern in the sense that you are using the latest technology to reach a larger number of visitors. Thank you very much. I again feel that this session, this national seminar has been very, very productive. All of you have richly gained, particularly the delegates, from the past experience of the dignitaries and experts present here. I thank the department especially on behalf of the authority, because our Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor Academic Affairs is busy otherwise. So on behalf of the Calcutta University Authority, I extend our thanks to the department especially for organizing this very meaningful seminar at this particular juncture. Thank you very much.
Professor Mahotare, for giving us your valuable suggestions, which is to be considered properly by the museum fraternity assembled here. We have in this seminar lot of light offered by the eminent scholars present here, and my dear museology students who are the budding museologists and museum curators. For them, I would only request, try to give your light, your passionate light to the cause of museum.
I, on behalf of all of you, congratulate Professor Chondo, who deserves Thank you.